Hello, my name is Hans, and today I want to talk about the biggest waste in software development ever, which is spending a long time, possibly years, writing software that nobody wants or that you're unable to sell. And I'll explain why I add or you're unable to sell later. I've done this. It hurts. And yes, spending years perfecting software that nobody really wants just feels like it's a huge waste. Now, if you're working for a big company, then this video is probably not very interesting to you, because this is talking about what products to make, what product to write, and your management's probably telling you what software they want you to write. But if you're like me and you have your own company, or you're planning on starting one, then this definitely applies. So, in order to successfully sell, and if you're working on open source, selling in this case is convincing people to use it, right? Because you could also waste a lot of time writing open source software that nobody wants. The internet is littered with software projects that nobody really uses. So yes, you've got the product, you've got to make the product. Now, if you're a software engineer or software developer, you know how to do that. Things usually, the problems are more with, you also need a hungry market. So people who want what you're making, what you have on offer. And that market needs to be big enough to justify the time and expense of writing the software. And then you need a way to reach that market. So you need the right marketing channels to be able to reach that market, because sometimes there are markets where there are plenty of people who would want the product you have if they could find out about it. So I'm going to use the first software that I wrote and released and sold as a case study. So it's called Relight. It was a photo correction program. The idea is I had big plans for it. It was a basic version I released was a basic one that would be able to correct the color of all the lighting in the photos to match what you saw when you took the photo. The idea to try to get the authentic shot. So was there a hungry market for it? Well, I got the idea because that's what I wanted. I wanted to, I had photos that if I could just make them look the way they were, the way I remember the scene being, then that would be great. But I think what people actually want, what more people want, is to be able to make their photos look like the ones they see in the glossy magazines. And that's not necessarily natural, especially when it comes to portraits. They're very touched up, right? So there's already a product market fit problem right there. But then things get worse when you look at the way to reach the market. So if you think about it, professional photographers and serious amateurs, they really want a full-blown photo editing suite like Photoshop. A simple photo correction programs are not that interesting, right? And then at the other end, people who are not serious photographers, just casual ones, they're not really looking. And this software was sort of targeted at the people who were, they're not serious amateurs or professionals. So again, it's like not that easy to reach. Oops. And then I made it even harder by, I thought I would outsmart the hackers or the crackers who crack software and then upload free versions on questionable sites around the internet, or upload a BitTorrent so people can get it for free without paying the person who spent a lot of time and money developing it. So I thought I would outsmart them by, instead of releasing a time-limited trial, I would release a demo with saving and printing disabled. And it's like, see if you can crack that when the code for saving and printing is not even present in the program, in the demo. I guess that worked, because nobody could crack it that way. But what that also ended up doing is when people downloaded it and tried it, it's like, if they didn't get an immediate benefit from it, that was basically it. Because why would you try software again when you know you can't save or print the results of your work? Why would you spend time on it? So literally, if somebody would download it, try it, if they didn't get an immediate benefit, that was a lost sale there. And indeed, round when I finally said, look, I have to give up on this one and move on, I was planning on switching to a 30-day trial. But this was after years of developing the first version of the software and sort of then trying to get the marketing to work. So I think it was so bad for me that when I tried advertising it, the advertising and marketing costs were at least 10 times the money I got back. I did get some sales. And despite what some people in the Amiga world say, ZDFTP servers sold way more copies than Relight ever did. But don't want to go to that. Don't want to go down that path. Let's have a look at how you can minimize this. So the first thing, right? Obviously, this all hinges on making a product that people want. How do you know what people want? A good start is to ask people. Start talking to people. I'm thinking about making this. What do you think about it? But here's the thing. What people think they want and what they actually want, what they're willing to spend money on, are two separate things. So people might say, hey, that sounds like a great idea. And when you make it and you come to them, they're like, oh, that's nice. But they don't pull out their wallet and buy. So sometimes what you can do is you can get pre-sales. I think especially for business software, if you can find people willing to give you a deposit for software you haven't written yet, that's a pretty good sign that there is a market. Although you still need to be careful, is the market big enough? You need more, you need the market to be big enough to justify all the work and the effort that goes in. The next thing, and this is another thing that I had read a book called The Lean Startup, which is all about building a minimum viable product. And then I still spent a few years writing the first version of Relight because I thought I needed to engineer it correctly so that when all the buyers came in, I have a good foundation on which to build the expanded version. And what ended up happening is I ended up spending a few years writing a good foundation of something that I then later had to abandon because I couldn't sell the software. So the minimum viable product basically means you create the minimum version that you're often embarrassed by the first version that you release. The minimum version needed to get it out there and see if people are willing to buy it. And in this case, it's a good idea to also, people who pride themselves on their quality of software are going to hate this, but cut corners and write a basic version rather than trying to, build a great, good foundation, architecting it correct the first time around. What you really want to do is find out, do people want what I'm writing? And then later you can refactor it, rework it to make it something you can build into a bigger product. But you really want to get that first version out there as quickly as possible and then see if you can sell it. Right? And the other thing I would say is especially if you're thinking of starting your own business, writing software, learn marketing, and don't think that because you're a smart programmer that it's going to be easy, because it's a completely different way of thinking. I'm sure there are more ways to work around this, but really, I'd say get out of your room. I know this is going to be hard for introverted software developers. Get out of your room, talk to people, find out if they'd be, who would be interested in the product. Learn marketing. If you can, ask for a prepayment before you start writing the software. If not, quickly create your minimum viable product, the simplest version of your software that you think you can put on sale, and find out if there's actually people who want it. And from there, you can actually adjust the program to match what it is that people actually want rather than what you think they want. So I hope that was helpful. And we'll see you next time.